All right. I think we're about ready to begin here. Let's see. All right. I think we're sounding good. Let me know, hey, if you're watching and if things sound okay. You can talk to me in the chat. If you have Jimmy Ruffian on Facebook, you can even call in. Not right now, though. I got a bit of an introduction to do. Thank you, Jessica. Let's get this off the screen here. There I am. Hello. How are you? All right. So welcome to the Rough Report. I am Jimmy Ruffian. Today is November 26th, reporting live from downtown Toronto. I didn't do a show last week. I've been busy with a lot of the new music stuff. If you haven't heard the song Selvage on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, SoundCloud, whatever the other ones are, here on this same YouTube channel, I have a lyric video that I quickly threw together up there. That's if you haven't heard it yet, go there, listen to it, for the love of God. I've been working on more music stuff to follow it up with, so I have something to follow it up with. By the way, this was the original poster for the release show that was supposed to happen in March. I like having this on my desk because I really like how the artwork turned out. Artwork by Perrin Squires. And, the graphic design here was done by myself. But, yeah, I just really like the poster aesthetically, so I kind of have it here as a inspiration thing and a reminder that, this was supposed to happen, this show in Hamilton, as part of the series of shows that I was planning to do to release this thing, was April 3rd. I think the Toronto date was something like the last week of March, and the lockdown in Ontario, or at least, phase one or whatever the hell they called it, happened, I think it was March 13th or 14th is when, it happened. So kind of a perfect storm, but also a blessing in disguise, because it allowed us to reapproach the record, do a lot of creative choices differently that had we not done that, it probably wouldn't have turned out as good as what it's sounding now. Actually, it definitely wouldn't have. COVID kind of screwed up our good fun there, but I think it also gave me the blessing of being able to make a better sounding record. So I can't complain too much on that particular front about my shows being canceled. When life gives you lemons, as cliched as it is, do the best with it. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so let's get to the first segment here that I want to talk about. Usually, as always, I kind of like to preferably start off with the more Canadian news. So the topic that I wanted to speak a bit on today is something that's been popular talk in the United States for quite some time. And naturally, it's now a topic here as things tend to go in the media and the culture between our two countries. That's not what I want. There it is. NDP proposes taxes on wealthy Canadians excess profits in House of Commons motions. Singh, the leader of the NDP, says families, workers, and small businesses shouldn't be on the hook for COVID-19 spending. And, that seems pretty obvious, right? I would like to think that seems inherently obvious to us all, that the people who have been struggling the most throughout this thing should not be the people that have to bear the brunt of its expenses. Seems pretty straightforward. I'm sure that's going to be a massive point of contention amongst conservatives and maybe even many liberals. Probably many liberals. They tend to want to be the ones to appear generous and prosperous for the people without going too far with it. I don't think they'd appreciate the NDP aggressively encroaching too much on their fund there. I could be wrong. But that's just sort of my feeling on it anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, it seems pretty straightforward, right? That the people who have actually somehow managed to profit throughout all of this should be the ones that probably should have a bit of that profit skimmed in order to meet certain expenses. Personally, in a lot of my political theory, I would go a lot further than that, but I'd appreciate this move nonetheless. New Democratic Party leader Jagmeet Singh says his party will call for a new tax on wealthy Canadians and another wealthy Canadians and another on business that have profited excessively during the COVID-19 pandemic when it sets the topic of debate in the House of Commons on Thursday. And now, mind you, this was on at the beginning of the month. There's been no major progress on this sort of thing as of yet. There no new revelations on it. I wouldn't be surprised if it just straight up didn't happen. For how much the NDP may try and push for it, I just wouldn't be that shocked. I don't think it's entirely. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my sound a bit here. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Check, 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 1, 2. 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 Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I wouldn't put an extraordinary amount of faith in them at least having an easy go at getting this through. There's a tendency to have a lot of resistance to this sort of thing. Anything that is resemblant of a socialistic or far left, and this is by no means a far left idea, by the way. It just simply isn't. It's essentially a left liberal idea, a far left idea. Again, in my personal political theory, we'd go a little bit further with it. We would take that a bit to the next level, and yeah. I don't know how else to put that. We would without getting too into the weeds. We'd take it to the next level. Let's just say that much. So they want to propose this new tax on the wealthy again, and this is a topic that's been discussed at length in the United States, mainly thanks to Bernie Sanders. As some of you may know, I'm a bit of a Bernie bruh all the way, and yeah, and he was absolutely right to point it out. It's absolutely right to be pointed out in Canada, and especially, I kind of appreciate Jagmeet Singh's strategy here, in that he is, essentially leveraging the pandemic to highlight the disparity between the haves and the have-nots, and the wage gap in this country and in this system. And using this moment and the fact that this moment is quite exemplary of that problem. And he is not ignoring that and using it to bolster the message that, hey, these people need to pay their fair share. It's as simple as that. They're not. They are extracting far more from society than they're giving back. It's as simple as that. There is no way that you could possibly justify that some of these millionaires, and especially billionaires, justifiably earn their income. That's just a bizarre thing to think. And it speaks to people that they just deep down would like it that if they were wealthy, they would not have to pay their fair share. I think that's what it comes down to. Yeah. Sorry, I'm using a different preamp and stuff today that I'm renting because, again, I was doing some music stuff, so I wanted to get some different gear to be working with. And I thought, why not? Let's try it on the podcast. So I just felt like I was just clipping and distorting a little bit there. I don't know if I actually was. But yeah. Doing a show 100% by yourself is, you get awkward moments like this sometimes. That's why I love having Nat here. Nat has gone out grocery shopping. She likes to do the show every now and then with me when we actually, more so when we actually plan it ahead. But a lot of the time we just have, especially these days, it's a bit unfortunate that we haven't been able to discuss the minutes of the show in a very planned way beforehand. So I've had a tendency just to kind of have my little bullet points and jump on here and do my thing. And it's a thing that I'm, didn't want to switch over to the next topic too quickly. It's a thing I'm trying to get better at all the time. And I'm going to get into it a little bit later when it comes to improving your discourse. And especially within leftist circles and what that has a tendency to look like sometimes, and how we interact on social media, being that social media and internet activism is such a huge foundation and cornerstone, if you will, of what we're trying to accomplish here. So yeah, if you're joining us live and you're watching the show, let us know in the chat. Drop your questions, comments, arguments. I don't know, whatever you feel like, as long as it's not racist or something. Okay. Here, where's my next topic? Sorry, bear with me here, folks. Okay. So, some of you are going to be familiar with the fact that Harry Styles recently appeared on the cover of Vogue, and he was doing nothing particularly groundbreaking. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of people that have come before him that have broken this ground in a number of ways, but it's on the cover of Vogue. He looks particularly good, so can't hate on it. Like, I'm not trying to diss him when I'm saying it's like it's not original or something like that. It looks awesome. I'm a big fan of how he sort of owns his queerness. I'm a big fan of anybody that does, really. And uses it to, it uses it to, I don't know, not uses it. Maybe that's the wrong way to approach it, but like, is not afraid to inject so much of it into the art and the portrayal, and I think that's just like an extremely important thing for queer people, to continue to see themselves in the various forms that they exist, to just see themselves in the media. And in that sense, representation matters. The more that you can see yourself and identify with figures in culture, in pop culture, the more you realize that you are not abnormal, that you do not need to be closeted, that you don't need to live a lie. It's a lie that I lived for a long time. And it's a lie that a lot of people struggle with. And one of the things that I love about, here, let's pull this up. Open image. There we go. Yeah, here's some shots from the cover there. Yeah, sorry, I'm losing myself. Seeing yourself on the screen, I struggled with it. Oh, yeah. And one of the things I loved about performing in music is that you had the openness and the excuse to be a little more theatrical. You had the openness and the excuse to wear things and to do things and to act a certain way that in other contexts would just be too revealing of a certain way that you're feeling inside, that you have been more or less indoctrinated into believing is not something you should show to other people. And that is something you should be ashamed of. And of course, of freaking course, we got old Benny boy coming in here. You know, Ben Shapiro, the paragon of masculinity. Anyway, I mean, the kind of masculinity that he wants to establish and maintain as the image of masculinity. Is he aware of how much he doesn't even fit it? It's absurd. Like, oh, bring back, like, and of course, alongside him, Candace Owens, saying to bring back manly men. I'm going to get a little deeper in this in a second. Yeah. Like, time after time, generation after generation, doesn't matter how much it's been written about, all the documentation on it, all the histories, all the various cultures of men being feminine or people assigned male at birth turning out to just not be that. The right, these idiots continue to act like this is like a new thing, generation after generation. How much does it take to realize that that's stupid as hell? It's so obviously not true on its face. So, given everything that I've said, let's check out the one person on this earth that I would just freaking love to shove into a locker because he looks like he didn't get enough of it. Ben Shapiro. Oh, sorry. Here, I know his voice is so annoying, but I do have to turn it up. So, just, I mean, you actually have to hear it, right? So, yeah.
Entire premise of Some Like It Hot is that it is funny when
okay,
men
wait. Sorry, let me go back.
A couple of obvious stipulations up front. Men have always done cross-dressing. There have always been some segment of men who cross-dress. Very often it was played for comedy. And the entire premise of Some Like It Hot is that it is funny when men cross-dress.
I don't remember that movie. Sorry, I'm going to try not to pause it too much throughout this, but I'm going to be tempted. I don't remember that movie, but that seems like, you know, the just most purposefully brain dead take to try and extract his point. But anyway.
That is not what the Harry Styles photo shoot is about. Right? There have been pop stars who've done this before. David Bowie wearing a dress. They always look like idiots, by the way. They always look ridiculous. But
Oh, they always look like idiots, by the way. I never look like an idiot. Because I'm Ben Shapiro. This fucking guy. They always look like idiots, by the way. Like, he needs to add that. He can't just let the idea exist in the air without it being, properly demonized, right? Like, if not for a moment can he allow his audience to possibly accept this as maybe perhaps normal. And like he even said, this has been done before. David Bowie's done it. But again, they're always trying to behave like this is something new. Like, oh, that's not what the Harry Styles photo shoot is. This is about something different now. It's not just, David Bowie looking like an idiot to be what he's going to call transgressive in a few seconds. And sure, to a certain degree, it is meant to be transgressive, as in to just simply challenge norms. But it isn't challenging norms for the sake of challenging them. It's challenging the norms because David Bowie was a bisexual man and is queer and is exploring queer parts of himself through his art. So yeah, it's transgressive to society and its standards or its norms, especially in the Western world at that moment. But it was also just people living their lives and living their truth. Ben Shapiro's view of the world is so freaking narrow that to him, we can't possibly be doing this out of honesty with ourselves, out of a lust for life, out of a wanting to live our truth. It can't possibly be about that. It's got to be about just sending a political message and to ruin society under the guise of some grand conspiracy to ruin society. It's anyway.
The whole point is to be transgressive.
Yeah.
Right? But what we are seeing with the Vogue article is not just an attempt to be transgressive, obviously. It's an attempt to redefine masculinity itself.
There
and
it
this
is,
is overt in the article. I'm not making it up. I already read you the segments from the Vogue magazine article. Okay, so my friend Candace Owens tweets out, quote, "There is no society that can survive without strong men. The East knows this. In the West, the steady..."
First of all, my friend Candace Owens, do you think they're friends? Like they hang out and like talk on the phone and have real enriching conversations together? I just find that sort of hilarious and difficult to imagine. But anyway.
Feminization of our men. At the same time that Marxism is being taught to our children is not a coincidence. It is an outright attack. Bring back manly men. Okay. I'm not sure what exactly is controversial about this, that masculinity is a good and important...
Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. Look at the look on his face and the phrasing and the inflection in his voice. The grift that he's running here. The petulance that is akin to, just hanging your finger in front of your sibling's eyeball and being like, I'm not touching you, so therefore you can't be mad. That's what this is, right? Like, and that's why it's so tempting to stuff this freaking guy in a locker. That's just the type of behavior that calls for it, right? Like he's just begging for it. A grown adult man begging to be hazed like a wiener teenager. And in no other context would I ever really use that language. I just think applying it to Ben is like an exception to the rule, and it's particularly funny. So I'm sorry. Jesus Christ. I'm not even in a minute in here. This guy.
thing when channeled properly. It requires men to defend family. It requires men to provide. It requires men to channel their aggressive instincts towards defense of values and civilization. It requires assertiveness. Aristotle talks about masculinity in exactly these sorts of terms. Harvey Mansfield has an excellent book called Manliness, all about masculinity and what distinguishes it from femininity. Now, it's not that the left doesn't acknowledge these are qualities. The left fully acknowledges the qualities of masculinity and femininity.
I can't wait to hear
which is
what
why
the
they
left
suggest
thinks.
that there are a wide variety of genders, because they suggest that a man can be very feminine, and this actually makes him a woman. Right? So they agree that this means that there is such a thing as masculinity and femininity. They then just suggest that men should act like women, right? That men should, masculinity.
That men should act like women. Like, see how he's framing this. Men should act like women because they want you to destroy society and the very foundations of society as we know it. Not let individuals be themselves and be individuals. For a political ideology like Ben Shapiro's that tries to push this idea of idealism so much, or at least present it as some sort of fig leaf or olive branch or what have you, they sure really hate individual freedom. Like, imagine being so offended. Like, bring back manly men. Manliness was destroyed by Harry Styles wearing a dress on a magazine cover. It's all gone now. All the masculinity's gone. And here comes Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens to inject it back into society for us. That's what they'd like to present as happening here, right? It's like, how does anyone swallow this shit? Like, do you not feel dumb as a sack of rocks even trying to listen to this for like a few minutes? It's unbelievable. I'm floored. I'm honestly floored. Time and time again by just how much I have a hard time getting through this.
Should be made more feminine. And Candace disagrees. She says that when you make men more feminine, when you suggest that men need to be like women, they need to wear dresses, right? That this undermines some fundamentally good.
Like, where is he getting this? That men need to act like this? Who does he think is saying that? That's not real, Ben. Whatever you're on about right now, the very premise of it is false right from the start. It's unbelievable. Like, this video is 10 minutes long. 2 minutes into it, and I just can't freaking take it anymore. It's just like every sentence that's come out of him has been such pure disingenuous garbage. It's really hard to get through it. Oh, man. Just freaking wild. I don't know. How are you taking this so far? Would love to hear your questions and concerns and opinions and stuff. Just amazing, really. Okay. I think I might take a break for a couple minutes because I got to hit the old washroom. And we're about at the halfway point through the show, and I feel like one of the cats is banging on my door. Probably wants something. So yeah, we're gonna take a little break right now. Here on the Rough Report. Let me get the background music going for you. By the way, a regular viewer and fellow podcaster who does her own show, Lacey, I know you were asking for this music. I'll show you what the video is. I can't remember if I actually sent you the link or not, so I apologize if you're watching and listening to me right now. But, and for anyone else who might be curious, it's just a YouTube video that I found of no copyright music. So it's just this video, the one with the ducky. And Rocket League Ball Brothers is the name of the channel. They only have 84 subscribers. But yeah, it's just no copyright background music, 30-minute loop. And it's just that classical guitar, kind of Spanish thing. And I rather like it. I'm going to write an original piece for this show eventually. In fact, I pretty much already have it written. It's just a matter of getting it recorded and stuff. So we're going to have our own original theme song in good time as soon as I do some other stuff for the Rough Go Music Project. So we're going into break time. Be right back. And I will be right back in just a few minutes. If I had any sponsors or anything, I'd probably be talking about them right now. But I don't. That said, we're taking submissions for sponsorships. If you want yourself advertised, we'll give you some cheap rates. Because it's not like our viewership is huge here. But we're trying. Okay, we are just about back. Boop. All right. Give it a nice little fade out here. All right, we are back. I had to take a break from Ben Shapiro's nonsense for a second. Let's dive back in, huh? Why don't we do that? I hate myself anyways.
Good thing about men. In the same way that if you said that women ought to act like men, it's funny. If you say that women ought to act more like men, this is considered sexist because it actually is sexist. But if
no one is saying ought, Ben. No one is saying that. Like when they're talking about redefining masculinity, they're talking about the fact that masculinity can include embracing things that are outside the rigid conformity of masculinity that you're trying to enforce. This concept of like the list of supposed male values that just before the break he listed as we were covering this. Like what he's trying to enforce. Oh, here, I'll bring the video back up so you can see. Like he's the one that's enforcing something. He's the one that's enforcing a should. He's the one that's enforcing a rigid standard based on nothing, really, other than an idea that aggressive males hold society together or something. Like it's pretty weak sauce.
you say that men ought to act more like women, this is considered progressive and forward thinking. The attempt to feminize men is ongoing on the left. Okay, so this prompted me to defend Candace's comment. And I said, this is perfectly obvious. Anyone...
I just want to listen to that again.
This is considered progressive and forward thinking. The attempt to feminize men is ongoing on the left.
The attempt to feminize men is ongoing on the left. No, the attempt. So people like myself can express ourselves and feel free to do so in society. That's what the left is trying to push. The left doesn't want every cis heterosexual man who only wants to wear what I'm wearing right now, like a hoodie and blue jeans. Nobody's forcing them to wear a dress. Nobody's trying to create a standard when they have to, at least not on the left. That is not part of this movement. People like Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens purely depend on, like through and through, depend on straw manning the opponent in order to even have something to talk about. Like they wouldn't have anything to say if they weren't building their entire criticism right from the get-go on a false premise that this is something that's being enforced by the left and by progressive people. That it's being enforced onto men rather than saying, hey, men who want to embrace more traditionally feminine qualities, or however you choose to phrase that, and however you identify with it that makes you feel comfortable. It's absurd. Like, how does it, like, it, does anyone literally, like, and I don't mean to, like, try and put people in an age box here. I'm just talking about, like, in terms of experiences and the diverse people you might come in contact with, depending on where you are and all those things. But honestly, does anyone above the age of, like, 14 or 15 really just listen to this and accept it as is? That seems pretty wild to me. I don't know. Here, sorry, I'm still kind of playing around with my audio levels. Bear with me if my volume's going up and down or something like that. I just don't want to clip and distort. That's all. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Let's spend a few more minutes on this. I watched more of the video earlier and like sort of took some mental notes along the way. Maybe I took too many.
Okay, so this prompted me to defend Candace's comment. And I said, this is perfectly obvious. Anyone who pretends it is not a referendum on masculinity for men to don floofy dresses and then be celebrated by magazines like Vogue is gaslighting you. Masculinity and femininity.
Floofy dresses. Men in floofy dresses. That was never a thing, huh? Has he like ever seen, a proper period portrayal of like Merchant of Venice, Romeo and Juliet, and how people used to dress back then? Like frilly and floofy were the words, my man. Jesus Christ. Look at his face right now. Let's just focus on that for a second. With his hands together in some sort of like prayer position and a slight orgasm face. There's just something very on point about that.
Are categories. They exist. Right? Some behavior is more masculine, like punching people in the face. Some behavior is more feminine, like wearing floofy dresses. Right? There are many.
I forgot about that. Yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about when we say like toxic masculinity and how certain standards of what being a man is in our society isn't necessarily something that should be what defines manlyhood, such as punching someone in the face. Yeah, we do good things like punch people in the face, and women do good women things like wear dresses. Ben, how is that in embracing your idea of individual freedom? How do you square that circle? Again, with the look on his face, the tone of voice, the way he always talks about these things, it is almost impossible for me to believe that he isn't doing this on purpose and this isn't a giant grift. Like, it's pretty obvious from Candace Owens' perspective, if you listen to her talk enough, that, like most of the intellectual dark web, it's a grift. It's designed to get under your skin in a certain way on a political level to expose certain people's insecurities about society, about themselves, and profit and capitalize on it. That is Ben Shapiro's business model, is by trying to enforce societal standards that simply just don't work for a lot of people. Just absolute freaking nuttery. And maybe that's a good segue into the next point. If you want to try and watch the rest of this freaking garbage, you can try. It's right there on his website or his YouTube channel, whatever. But it's kind of a good segue into improving discourse, right? Like, it's something that, despite the fact that I'm always sort of thinking about improving discourse and how I can engage in that, it's still something that's possible to fail at, and I do from time to time. You end up stumbling into a subject you don't understand necessarily, or a perspective you didn't necessarily hear before. And you can't, it's impossible for a person to know everything, right? And we need to have a certain amount of forgiveness for that, but and approach things from a more educational point of view. And it's difficult because, oh, hello. Oh, I got whiskey. Hey.
I broke the only medium plate.
The only medium plate?
That.
We're really good at breaking dishes around here. We do it way way too often. This ought to loosen me up for the next stretch. The greatest lady in the world, I tell you. Yeah, I fail at it sometimes. Even some of the best commentators that I see online, really smart men, women, people all over the globe. You can have bad takes. And I know the right is sort of obsessed with this idea of, ooh, cancel culture. And it's not nearly the type of problem that they try and make it out to be. But if we're being honest with ourselves, there are definitely people within online activist circles that have the crab bucket mentality. And that is to destroy anyone, or try and bring, I shouldn't say destroy, that's a little dramatic, bring down anyone a notch who looks like they might be being listened to more often than others. And it's like, oh, okay, you're having too big a presence here. We're gonna just knock you down a peg. And like, I get it in a lot of occasions, but sometimes it works to your detriment. It works to personal feelings of trauma that we're not working through. And again, I say we because I include myself in this. It's something that I have to think about continuously. Why am I reacting to something a certain way based on my own past experiences? Right? Here, just one second. Kitty cat pulling on wires in the back of the desk. You have to get the squirt bottle. That's the secret. That's what works. I wish I actually written this stuff down. Again, like I try and write things in my head and just dive in on this show a little too often sometimes. But yeah, it's a hard line to walk, where you're trying to decipher between people who are having some sort of bully crab bucket perspective, and then the intersections that come with that in regards to privilege dynamics and power dynamics, and then maybe even if you disagree with the other, that doesn't mean that they're not making a good point somehow. You may ultimately disagree with it, but you can also say, yeah, I disagree ultimately with your point, but your criticism of my point is kind of valid. I see where you're coming from. I think I can improve on that. Or I hear you and I sympathize with it. We can stand to be a little bit more nuanced in that way. And sometimes asking for nuance when something is rather simple and straightforward and just is what it is, and doesn't require a paragraph to say it necessarily. You got to give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes. And it's like, you see what I'm saying? It's like a lot of like back and forth, up and down. There's a lot of dimensions happening, right? So how do you square that circle? How do you approach when people are talking past each other or read each other a certain way, so thus every word that is said thereafter has a certain tone to it that is tainted. And it's difficult. It's this is not easy, and that's why a lot of people choose not to get into it altogether. And I want to encourage more people to get into this stuff. I want to encourage the idea that it's okay that if you got the theory wrong, it's okay that you weren't aware of a particular issue if you're willing to dive in and tackle it. Or even if you're not necessarily willing to dive in, dive in and tackle it. But at least have some sort of empathy or sympathy for it, and not, hey, I don't understand this issue clearly 100%, so I'm just maybe not going to have strong opinions on it further until I understand it, you know? Just like having a little more empathy and understanding for other people, even despite the privilege dynamics. I mean, like, there's been several times where, you know, as a cis, essentially cis, like, I consider myself gender fluid in a lot of ways. I embrace my feminine side in all sorts of ways. I do not yet have the particular language for myself on how I choose to articulate that. I just know that it's something I like to do. And it's something that makes me feel comfortable and alive and expressive. And that's something I want to embrace and not hide about myself and feel like I'm missing out on a part of myself. Sorry, I got a little off my topic there. Yeah, I'm just having too many thoughts go at once, because it's like, just my experiences as of recent in a lot of discourse on the internet. It's just like, and again, I implicate myself in this as well. Like, I'm not, perfect in all aspects of this. So thus it calls for a little bit more reflection than usual on the conversation, and like, what can I do to improve? It's just things as of recent seem particularly combative. And I've been accused of being combative when it's like, I'm kind of talking how I am now, right? It's like, okay, I see your point. I'm just trying to say this. And it's just like, the other person responds like, no, you're not hearing me right now. It's like, no, I totally do. I really do. I'm not being combative. I'm trying to talk in this sort of, friendly, I'm listening to you tone or what have you. And it's just like, in text, once you see something or cement something a certain way, it's hard to get past it. And it's easy to become very like jaded about it in that moment. And I don't know what to do to diffuse that. I don't think there's any perfect solution, because so many people regard what is respectful and what isn't differently. And they want to be approached differently, and they have different ideas of what respect looks like in a lot of ways. And so it's just, I don't know. I guess the only thing that I can suggest, and it's something I talk a lot about in the text-based world, is letting go of ego and stuff like that, and your marriage to a certain reality. I'm not saying be divorced from reality, but being, there's Spartacus here now, being overly attached to certain parts of your understanding of the world, or how things should look or sound. And that kind of goes for everybody, and even people in less so, but people in less privileged positions. It's something that everybody has to think about to a certain degree. But more, the higher on the privilege scale you are, the more you should try and be conscious of it. And unfortunately, in our present society, we have to observe that there is a certain hierarchy in how we react to class, sex, race, and how those things combine, and how that works for privilege and what have you. Yeah, so I know a lot of what I just said was probably a little confusing. So if there's anybody who listens to this and doesn't kind of see where I'm going with it, definitely say so. I would love to try and expand on this more in a way that would help more people understand it. Because, like I just said, how we choose to read things, and what our previous experiences with those words or phrases or different types of people are concerned affects our framework of how we hear those things. And yeah, so I want to improve on that, and I think it's important for many of us to have a driven desire to want to improve on that. There's some people who are never going to improve on it because it's entirely the basis of their career. This guy, Ben Shapiro. For those of you who may not be watching and just listening, maybe I have to narrate what's on the screen. Yeah. Anyway, that pretty much rounds out the hour. Yeah. I'm going to finish my... Sorry for the auto-focusing happening there. I'm going to finish my beverage and then have another one. Possibly another after that. So, yes, I am Jimmy Ruffian. This has been The Rough Go, or The Rough Report. Speaking of The Rough Go, there's going to be another single dropped soon. So go and check out all the streaming services and listen to my song Selvage. And then there's going to be another song coming out soon called Who the Hell. And I'll have an actual release date announced for that very soon. The song is pretty much done. I just got to do a little more tweaks on it. But again, thank you to all my supporters, Patreon, PayPal donations. Definitely once I'm over this hump of the current project I'm working on, we're going to be diving in more into some cool stuff on the Patreon end. And I definitely want to be looking at doing some cool live show stuff. Like, I want to stream kind of how I'm streaming now, but with like great sound, great lights. I kind of have this idea of making a live streaming show of this kind cool. And hopefully, maybe I can make it cool. Maybe it will be lame as hell. We'll see. Anyways, I'm really excited for all the stuff that's happening musically. Watch out. There's lots of press release stuff happening in regards to the music. Interviews coming out. It's onward and upward for the Rough Go and hopefully the Rough Report. So again, thank you so much to all the people who watch, listen, support, donate.